Now,
All right.
since you begin first, yes, last night, I'm gonna begin this time.
Okay.
Okay. Uh, just by reading the poem before that, simile and metaphor, they kind of mean the same thing, but the comparison between the two is very different. Simile use the word like or as, and metaphor don't use those words. But I kind of have a feeling the metaphor has a more deeper meaning and a deeper comparison in each poem. Um, one of the one of the great example from the poem is taken from I think God's grandeur. It says that fire is about hot as grass, as green as a grass. So the simile here is that the fire, the color of the fire is green, and so when the fire turns green, it's really hot. And the way that the writer is explaining is that the green is as green as the grass. There is nothing more greener than grass, I think, and also the writer also signifies the beauty of that color when he talks about that. And so that is there's a lot of simile in the poem, but that is I think that is one of the simile. I think an easy simile that we can after digesting from the poem. What do you think about that poem of God's grandeur?
At the first reading, I was like, there's a lot of metaphor. It's like the whole poem by itself is a metaphor because
Yeah,
at the beginning, the first sentence is like, the world is charged with the God's grandeur. It's like preparing us of what's happening in the poem. It says that for me, that at the beginning, it says that, oh, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna demonstrate. We're gonna show you all the stuff that God has here on this earth by trying to explain you in the way that with the metaphor. It's like a enumeration of all the grandeurs of God in one poem only by using the metaphor.
true. That is so true. Um, and also there's I think there's other example like from the poem I think is Dylan Thomas, and in that poem just there's a couple of um I think it's yeah I think the author is Thomas. Yeah, the author is Thomas, and the poem is Fern Hill.
Yeah,
And
Fernhill.
just from reading the poem, I think every stanza kind of leave a trail of a metaphor or a simile. Um, I think another simile that we can look at in this poem is I think it's in stanza one, two, three, four, five, and
For me, I really like this poem, the one from Dylan Thomas, because it's he's like using a lot of stuff from the nature to compare or to make us understand something else. For example, at the sentence number three, no, yeah, sentence number three, when they said that, no, sentence number two, sorry, says about the lightning house and happy as the grass was green. It says that there is something with the grass when because when we see that the grass is green, is that the grass is like in good health, and he's just like comparing joy to the grass. That's that's a bit, yeah, that's just a bit something.
And also on the second stanza, as is art and singing as the farm was home, it's like comparing the farm to home. And I think that is another good example of a simile.
Hmm.
And I think simile and metaphor is very important to poem,
Hmm.
um, because it kind of give us more feelings of the poem. It's more like a song. Um, it's more like the difference between um, those those famous singers and writers compared to those who don't know how to compose songs. Like the meaning of the song is meaningless. It's like straightforward, and there's nothing. Cause you know how songs are made, they always try to hide the meaning of a song by using metaphors and simile.
Hmm.
And I think that is the same thing here with this poem. The importance of having metaphor and simile kind of put more feeling and um, gives more meaningful things of the poem. So
Yeah, yeah. I think that metaphor for a poem is allows the writer, the author, to express something that we cannot express normally. It's more intense.
that's
It's
true.
more. There's more feelings when you can compare something to something else. Like in the video, they say that uh, the man is a horse. It's strong when we say that. We cannot like we
Yeah,
can describe it easily, but it's more direct. It's more strong when we use the metaphor.
that's true. Even from the poem "Neutral Tones" by Thomas Hardy, in the third last line in the third stanza, and there's also a simile there saying, "And a grind of bitterness swept thereby like an omnious bird a wing." And this one just talks about how the pain and the things that they go through.
Exactly.
It's beyond. Yeah, it's beyond. So the simile here is helping the poem describe how hard the pain was and how only a tough and a strong person can go through this.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so it's crazy how the importance of simile in the poem.
Yeah. It's like if the metaphor was like making the something weird and maybe a bit strange and scary more beautiful.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. Metaphor makes things more beautiful.
Yeah, like what you
And
just read.
yeah,
Metaphor can make things more beautiful. That's a thing, actually.
yeah. And I think a good example would be how our Polynesian songs, how there's a lot of metaphors in it.
Yeah,
I think especially with the Tahitian, they have a lot of metaphors comparing to flowers, birds,
yeah, true.
just to just to describe how beauty or how good someone is. And I think that's how beautiful metaphor is in simile.
Yeah,
It just brings out what the poem is all about.
and also I did see and remark that mostly the three poems that we just read, the mostly the metaphors are like comparing something to the nature, something that happens in the nature,
Yeah.
like the fire, like the birds, and the grass. There's a lot of stuff like that. Because the nature is beautiful, that's
So,
why the author used it.
and with the last question is, how does making those comparison contribute to the poem's tone and message about the issue or theme it addresses? I think we have covered this about how important is metaphor and how important metaphor and simile to each poem. Um, you know that part when they talk about the 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 fire as green as grass. I think just by that simile really tells us how hot or something is that the poem is talking about.
Mhm.
And imagine how boring it would be if a poem has no metaphor or simile.
It will be straight.
Yeah, yeah, straightforward. It's just it's gonna sound like more like a essay, one of those boring essays.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Like we said, just metaphor makes stuff more beautiful.
That's true. Um, yeah, and I think that's pretty much all the question that we were supposed to talk about.
All right.
Um,